Hi, lovies. It's Christina with Karma's Eye Psychic LLC here on Universal Spirit Podcast. So, entering November, we are going to talk about things such as when you first discovered you were spiritual and not religious. If you want to call it something like this, coming out of the closet, coming out of the broom closet, as a lot of Wiccan, pagan, and Norse people describe it. Some people describe it as coming out of the dollhouse, coming out of fakeness, coming out of deadness. But we're going to discuss about, when you knew you were spiritual, when you did not care about what people thought anymore, when you could no longer deny it, especially those of you coming out of a lot of religious families and really large social circles which are dominated by religion in particular. My first question would be why is coming out of the religious closet or the spiritual closet or the broom closet, so to speak, so important when we can pretty much do what we want and not necessarily broadcast everything we do to the world? Why is it so important that we come out to ourselves? Do we come out to others? Do others need to know, or do we need to constantly affirm to ourselves this is who we are? And we ourselves need a constant reminder of who we are and what it is we're doing, or what it is that we are believing in. That would be my first question, and I would like to know your thoughts about that. Why come out in the first place? We do know that a lot of people who come out to be spiritual are mostly, I would say about 85%, are people who are giving up, leaving, or denying, the religion that they were brought up in, or just denying religion altogether. They might have tried it in their younger years. They might have believed some things and, left a lot of other things. And even when they applied the things that they took with them, really did not resonate as much as they had hoped it would, and trying to become, so very, bubbly and enthusiastic as everybody else is about this religion or about this way of life or this culture, and you just felt like you just didn't have it in you, like you just didn't have that happiness, or you didn't have that gust of joy when you thought about it. It became more of like a burden, maybe, or maybe something you might have been embarrassed by, or really something that you were taught that you do not quite understand, and have a feeling that the people that taught it to you don't even have a good understanding of it. Most people who come out as spiritual realize that the people who tried to teach them religion only do it because they were told to, without any necessary facts or proof or anything like that. This would mostly include Christianity, Catholicism, most Muslim and Islam religions. I would say some Judaism, not all, because we can back up some Judeo text and proof. Turning it into religion, however, is in fact a choice, a subculture, subcontext, and again, a choice. So basically, for the most part, spiritual people usually have like this gut intuition where it's kind of like they don't need these religious tools, they don't need these religious rules, they don't need the context, they don't even need the general, outline or basics to feel what they feel or to know what they know. And most of those religious sects and the disciplinary lifestyles are just not for them. More spiritual people are more free-thinking, very open-minded people that cannot be put into what we call, a cylindrical cultural box, that you're always looking for the right answer or any answer, but the answer could not be in this box. Even if you've searched the box multiple times looking for the answer, still haven't found it, you deep down believe that I can find it elsewhere. So knowing this, you have turned away from general religion or religious cultures and religious people. Your next question might be, why are we even having this conversation? Well, in 2022, the growing population and the growing culture of magic is in fact on the rise. The social and cultural consciousness is more aware now as it ever has been before. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because more and more people are turning their backs on religion in general. People are now looking inward instead of outward for their, spiritual validation, for any validation. It could be emotional, it could be mental, not looking for approval from another human, because we as humans are flawed. All of us are flawed, and religion kind of tries to make you believe that your pastor or your parents or people who are above you in any way, your husband, or your teacher, your boss, these people are always above you. Like, you don't ever seem to have a chance to ever own yourself. It's like you go from 0 to 18 and your parents are in charge of you. Then you got 18 and then forever and your boss and your husband and whoever is in charge of you. It's like you never get that time to actually be in charge of yourself or to really guide yourself. Now, people are self-guiding in general, but it's a lot easier for spiritual people to listen to themselves and guide themselves, and have ancestors, spirit guides, and look to nature, to be, a source of truth, a source of happiness, and a source of comfort, and all those things that are very internally found inside of ourselves. Meditation and deep breathing, calm, relaxation, stillness, and sleep, guiding yourself, being patient, waiting for answers, not jumping to conclusions. Once a spiritual person believes or knows that they can find all these answers within themselves, they no longer need religion. Because then the next question becomes, does a spiritual person need religion? Do they really? Let's talk about that. Because once you realize that, yes, all religions and all cultural, practices have sort of rules, but spiritual people are very flexible. They do believe that you can live life without an exact set of rules, especially rules that were made up by people, right? We have the 12 laws of the universe, of course, and we have all these laws of karma, and most of these laws have to do with laws of science, laws of physics, very little to do with human intelligence at all. Because human intelligence is always expanding, so why are we dependent upon it when there is something that we know today that we didn't know tomorrow? So a spiritual person doesn't technically need religion because they understand the expansive path in life. They understand that life not only is what you make it, but it is a path that goes on and on, not necessarily in a circle. Try to get a very well-seasoned spiritual person to go in a circle. I don't think you'll be able to do it. And that's with a job, a person, a situation. They will not continue to go in a circle, especially if they are aware that it is toxic. One thing psychologically about spiritual people, they do understand toxicity, and they do understand that they have the choice to remove themselves from the toxicity, understanding that if they continue to engage in something that is bad or wrong or toxic and not good for them, they are responsible for anything that comes with it. That if something bad happens to them, they claim responsibility for even being in the presence of something that they know or knew is toxic. In religion, you're told to really, take oppression, to accept oppression, accept punishment, and accept that someone could not be approving of you, and you must change yourself until someone approves of you. It's really a narcissistic cycle, in my opinion. Now, understand this is only my opinion. I'm not God. I'm not anybody in power. I'm only in control of myself, and anyone who wants to listen and take my advice, you can, take what resonates and then leave the rest, right? But, from my experience as well, being what I call a recovered Christian, I was raised Christian. I'm no longer considered to be a Christian. I will not carry any title of that. I believe in Jesus, just not the same way as Christians do. So I have adopted being spiritual instead of Christian, and I do not follow the rules of Christianity because they are very oppressive, very similar to slavery, very misogynistic, and very narcissistic, and it's about punishment and abuse and all this stuff that is very, very vile and negative. So like I said again, spiritual people do not continue into cycles that are negative, and that was a negative cycle for me in particular. So I know a lot of you can relate to that. I would like to hear your stories and your responses to, how you guys came out of the spiritual closet. Some people come out because they have spiritual gifts. For those of us who are intuitive, psychic, for those who can see spirits, for those of you who can hear messages, clairaudient, clairvoyant, there are so many different ways of contacting the spiritual world, which are in fact natural gifts. And I mean, I don't care how many times you drank the fluoride as a kid in school, your pituitary gland is not suppressed. You can still see, you can still hear, you can still feel, you still have that empathic power. That empathic power about you does not die. And you notice that your empathic power seems to feel when you're around religion that you are in some type of toxic, very uncomfortable, very oppressive environment. Not because of the ego. It's really not because of the ego. You are wanting and willing to grow. You are willing to learn. You are still willing to expand. But something about religion is very suppressive, oppressive, and something about it is very abusive. It's abusive to your aura. It's abusive to your thinking. And you don't really go in it very willingly, and you don't have very positive thoughts about it. You don't believe that God could have said X, Y, and Z when you know the person that's saying it doesn't like you very much. So they'll say anything to try to, so you can be approved by them. And then you can go and feel bad about you living your life. It's like they want you to feel bad about feeling good about yourself. Most religions do not teach self-love. They teach that you need to get love from God or Allah or whoever, okay, or from Jesus or in particular, okay, that you cannot experience life unless you get love from those people. And then they tell you you can't live life properly if you don't receive love or approval from your parents. Now, let's face it, like I said before, we're all flawed. How can we receive love how can we feel comfortable trying to be approved by our parents when some of our parents are not that great? Because Christianity in particular would have to assume that your parents are all good. And then they say, oh, no one's perfect. Well, why am I taking the oppression of my parents then, taking their, adopting their ways when their ways have not even been thought through? Sometimes we end up raising our parents. So why are we then, forced to believe in a God that they haven't even clearly understood? It's kind of like you're both learning, but you're expected to do everything this, unlearned person is telling you what to do. Like, spiritual people understand very quickly when people try to brainwash them or try to, suck them into a belief system that they will never agree with. They respect everyone's beliefs and understand the perspective of why you believe what you believe, because everyone deserves to be heard, obviously, with their beliefs and whatever. But try to get a spiritual person to go to religion. It's very, very difficult, because once a person realizes that they're spiritual, they start to realize that they are powerful. Because the last thing I will say about religion in particular is that religion makes you feel powerless. You feel powerless, that you have to go to this place, that you got to say these things and you got to do these things, okay? Or you got to, get your parents' approval when both your parents could be junkies, but, in the eyes of God, they're still above you. They're still better than you, when technically, socially, and physically, not true. So there's a lot of things, spiritual people see that they have this inner strength where religion and cultural norms tend to be lacking. Okay, it's more about control and obedience rather than having actual any power. In Christianity, you're taught that you are living in sin. You're born in sin, so you're bad. So you're supposed to take anything bad that comes your way because you deserve it automatically. A spiritual person knows that is not true. A spiritual person says, if I work hard and I do good things and that Sam still wants to be a shithead, it has nothing to do with me. Sam is just a shithead. He was a shithead before he met me. He's going to be a shithead without me. Okay? So spiritual people are smart enough, they are brave enough, and they are powerful enough in order to take their power and use it. Use it every day. Use it all the time. Take care of it. Meditate. Calm, slow, stillness, sleep. Energy. Healing, shadow work, all that stuff. They do understand to take care of their spiritual well-being rather than maybe their material well-being or even their social well-being. Because the more and more spiritual you get, you notice that your social circle begins to get pretty small right after that, because it's kind of like you got unplugged from the matrix, but people may even know that they're plugged up, but they refuse to leave the matrix. But you as a spiritual person feel your power. It's kind of like for a fact you can never go back. You can never go back to the matrix, because the matrix is a place of oppression. You're too spiritual. You're too big. You no longer fit into that suit. Even if you tried to go back in, you know how ridiculous you would look. I'm speaking for a lot of spiritual people who might be listening right now. Once you've gotten past that, the BS of the spectacle, what we call religion, you start to realize that it really isn't as bright as it looks. In fact, it looks like it might have been put together by a lot of uneducated people just to keep control. And if you're educated enough, in my opinion, you won't stay under that control for very long. You won't go to the end of your life believing what a man taught you, about another being without you looking for the being yourself. This is why spiritual people get ancestors involved, spirit guides, people and situations, and that resonate with them, that resonate with their purpose, that resonate with their soul, that resonate with their spirit, the things that drive them, the things that motivate them. They are drawn, to those things. It could be things such as teaching, law enforcement. It could be anything. It's kind of like most spiritual people find their calling very early in life, but life in general will try to sway them into the spectacle, into the oppression, into the norm, into the circle and the cycle that goes around and around and around. When a spiritual person really you feel it early in life, that you have been broken off and you are supposed to make your own path. And whether or not people follow it or not, you've created another path that people have the option of going down, and it couldn't have been created without you. Now, we are supposed to be on our own paths, but you never know who you are inspiring every day, because spiritual people inspire people, and I would say religious people oppress others. Tell me what you think about this. Let me know in the comments. Join the conversation if you like. You can always send me an email at ceo@karmazeyepsychic.com. I've been Christina McKinney with Karma's Eye Psychic LLC here on Universal Spirit Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I will see you next week. Love you. Bye.